How long have you been married?
24 years.
Wow. I like to hear big numbers, but I like to hear health in those big numbers. I am someone who celebrates the years, but I think with probably 2 or 3 minutes of conversation, when you start asking someone who's been married, you can tell whether they're excited about their marriage, how they feel about it, or if they're living in misery.
Honestly, marriage is not for everyone. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart, those individuals who cannot seem to get out of their way, because
Mm,
it's definitely a partnership. 24 years, it does say that there have been a lot of blissful times, but there have been a lot of equally times where it was not so blissful, where you want to walk away. But
mm.
because you've gotten out of your way and you said, you know what, I'm not in this for me, I'm in this for us, you don't just walk away.
What's up, guys? This is your boy Jay, your host here at Preparing Men for Marriage, and I have a special guest here. This is my guy, Derrick. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Matter of fact, I'm going to shut on up, but I do want to say definitely would ask you guys to make sure that you subscribe to our channel. He has a YouTube channel as well. Let me kind of give the premise as to why we exist. We exist here to help prepare men for marriage. This is my book. My the ebook is out. The paperback is on its way. And again, we just want to help prepare men for marriage. This is the greatest decision that you will ever make. This is the most important relationship that you will ever have on the earth. Okay. And so, therefore, it requires that much preparation because it is the most attacked relationship on the earth as well, because of that reason. So, we're going to talk about a host of things today surrounding marriage. So, without further ado, sir, tell us who you are.
All right. First off, thank you for having me on the podcast, Jaquan. I've known you for many years, and I've seen you from college all the way till today, and I love the success and all of the things that you've done. So it's a privilege to be here. So I want to really thank you for that. Um, I'm Derrick Henderson. I have a few small things that I've done. Podcast is the Spiritual Clinic. Just dropped a book called well, it's called Prophetic Psychology. And, I'm just here to kick it with my man because he brought up a very interesting topic. And then I read his book, which he's going to introduce to you. That's not my job, but I read his book and he hit on a lot of things that I agree with in the church. I've been in ministry myself for about 30 years. So um, I just want to jump in and see where this conversation takes us. So that's it for me.
For sure, for sure. Well, where you from? What's your nationality? And if you feel like sharing your age or age range, that would be great.
All right. Well, let's see. That's kind of a question for somebody who's semi-nomadic. I'm originally from Harlem, moved from Harlem to Mount Vernon, New York, grew up most of my life in Mount Vernon, New York. And then when I got married, Danbury, Connecticut, and now I am currently in Newburgh, New York. I am I'm half and half. I'm half black, half Puerto Rican. Um, and I am 57 years old this month. So my birthday is in 4 days.
Look at that.
So that's about it for me.
Look at that. Okay, we should drop on his birthday, by the way. So, okay, let's just jump right in. You already mentioned that you're married. How long have you been married?
24 years.
Wow. So I will say this, I'm not the type of person. I like to hear big numbers, but I like to hear health in those big numbers. So I'm not someone, I am someone who celebrates the years, but I think with probably 2 or 3 minutes of conversation, when you start asking someone who's been married, you can tell whether they're excited about their marriage, how they feel about it, or if they're living in misery. So let me ask you this. What are your views on marriage?
Uh, Honestly, marriage is not for everyone. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart, those individuals who cannot seem to get out of their way, because
Mm,
it's definitely a partnership. Now, the breakdown of that, some people will say it's 50-50. You and I have spoken about that aspect. There is no 50-50 in the
yeah.
relationship, especially in a biblical marriage. All right. And I don't want to jump ahead of the podcast, but 24 years, it does say that there have been a lot of blissful times, but there have been a lot of equally times where it was not so blissful, where you want to walk away. But
Mm,
because you've gotten out of your way and you said, you know what, I'm not in this for me, I'm in this for us
mm,
to build something, you don't just walk away. So it's been I would say honestly I would say it's a 50-50 thing because I love my wife more now than I did even in the very beginning because we have grown closer. And not that I've gotten more familiar with her, but what has happened is I have gotten to know the intricacies of the relationship. There's things that I still mess up on, yes. There's things that she still messes up on. But like the Bible says, through love and kindness have I drawn thee. That's kind of a concept that you have in marriage too, because that love and kindness draws an individual to you. And you don't see them as somebody that's, this is just my wife. You see them more so from the perspective of, this woman helped me with my life. She's
mm,
walking with me. This is a journey, man. This is a journey. And believe me, you don't want a journey by yourself. I definitely know I don't. So
mm.
I'm glad I found my partner to journey with.
Man, you talking about some things that I actually ended up going into in the book. This is not going to be about me, so I'm just going to fire back with another question. So you mentioned, at times the consideration of walking away, and I think I'll say in general, but especially in the church, I think we don't like to have these types of conversations, right? I think we're extremists, right? I'm blessed and highly favored and married, or I'm on the brink of divorce, right? And we don't talk about the navigational system, okay, for
Uh,
lack of better terms. And when I say that, what I mean is you just made a comment, and we may or may not get into that as much, but I want to ask you this because that leads to another situation. Have you ever been divorced?
I have, I have, I've lived in that space where it started off blissfully. And once again, you and I spoken about this. I started off blissfully, and myself and a young woman. I was married for 3 years, three and a half years, and in that time period, I actually lived with her before marrying her, and that's a whole other separate
Yeah.
situation. So I'm going to speak about the marriage part. But when we got married, as a young man in my early 20s, I did not understand that marriage began did not begin in the bedroom and end in the bedroom. Marriage is all over the place. You got to get to know the person outside of your bed, okay?
Yeah.
In your kitchen, in the living room, no matter where you are in conversation. But her and I were so wrapped up in the physical and getting busy and doing everything else till we began to notice that we couldn't even have a conversation. Next thing you know, she's yelling, I'm yelling. Our conversations began to become shouting matches.
Mm,
So I'm coming home from work, sitting in my car, dreading going in the house.
mm,
And then when I got in the house, knowing that I'm going to meet this, and I'm not going to say that she was so much as vindictive because whatever it was that I was doing was also triggering her. You understand? Because I did not know her. I knew her physically. You
yeah.
understand? Because what I
Yeah.
did was I married, a, and I hope I can say this, but I married a
Say
big
it.
butt.
There
That's
you go.
exactly what I got. And that's exactly what I got. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know the things that she liked. I didn't know what she liked to do. All I knew is that I liked what we were doing in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And beyond that fact, there was no relationship. And I'm
Mm,
surprised that it lasted 3.5 years
wow.
because there were children involved.
Yeah.
Okay. And we did have the sense enough to try to take care of our children. We did desire for them to have a stable home, but I don't know how stable that was with all of
Right.
the yelling, shouting, and things of that nature. But that was hell on earth for me.
Yeah.
So married before, but let me just interject this. It taught me a very good lesson.
Mm,
It taught me that I needed to learn who it was that I was going to enter into a relationship with. I needed to get to know them besides just sleep with them and say, "Hey, this is good sex. Let's go ahead and see if we can build something from there." You can't build a good relationship, not the type of relationship that's going to sustain you for years on just
mhm.
sex.
I like that you went there. I think you kind of touched on it, but so there's so many men that are afraid of marriage. And I think, when you talk about divorce, it is a very scary thing. What do you think led to the demise of the relationship?
Some people would look and they would say, "Well, it was her. It was her," and blame her. But I have to say, it was the both of us. The demise of the relationship was was the fact that whatever issues we were having, it led to adding another person into the relationship, which we call that, adultery. And she stepped out on me. Now, um, as far as feelings were concerned, I automatically blamed her because I felt, I was doing everything that I was supposed to do, but I wasn't. I wasn't.
Yeah.
The honest to
Yeah.
God truth wasn't because there was no communication. I didn't know where she was going. I didn't know what she was doing. All I knew is that she went to work and that when she got home when she got home. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anything else I didn't care about. So she stepped out on me and I found out about it.
Yeah.
And at that point, because, and truth be told, and I'm going to be very real with you here on this podcast, I'm going to be very real with you. I
Yes,
did
sir.
some things on the side myself.
Mhm.
The honest to God truth. I did some things on the side myself. I was a young man. I wanted to listen. I told you my age in the beginning. I'm very calm now. Okay, but back then, like most young dudes, as much as you can do, you did as much as you can do. And if you got caught, you got caught. You try to make an excuse. If you didn't, then you'd walk it off and be like, "Well, I'm going to be faithful now."
Yeah.
Okay, but she's the one who stepped out, and I caught her. She didn't catch me.
Right.
We were both wrong on both ends of that, being in marriage. And her father is a bishop.
Mm,
Okay, and we both knew better, both of us. And when it happened, my automatic response was, I'm hurt, I'm surprised, and now I'm divorcing you. There was
mm.
no reconciliation in my mind. I didn't even think that, what did I do?
Yeah.
In my selfishness, I said, you know what? You hurt me. And
Mhm.
because you hurt me and you got caught, now, you got caught. I didn't get
Right.
caught. You
Right.
got caught.
Right.
I'm leaving. So I would get the jump on leaving first.
Right.
This is all young thinking. And so the demise of that relationship came, I believe, because of both of us immaturity, sexual impurity, and all kinds of things, that, communication and things of that nature. So
Yeah.
it was just a bad situation all around.
So you say something that I think a lot of us men who are afraid of the worst that can happen in a marriage or a relationship, which is being cheated on. But I think obviously, you know, yes, people do just go to that because that's their nature, but I think there's a breakdown that happens. And the result is that so we blame the person who, had the violation, but we don't look at our part. And there's always an our part. No one is perfect, so that leaves room that we can always be better. So I think that's one of the things that I talk about in the book is working on yourself, because it's real easy to do this, right? But it's very hard to look in that mirror and say, how can I be better? What role do I play in how this person feels, how they act, all of that? And to be able to do that is a sign of maturity. So it goes back to what you said. Not everybody should be married. There's two options, though. The Bible gives us two options: eunuch or marriage. Now, this is what I say to that. Just because that is the case doesn't mean that you should just jump into marriage. You should prepare. And that's why I wrote the book, because I feel like there's so much vitriol for marriage based on our society. We look at the
Yes.
results. Yeah, we look at the results of marriage, but we don't put as much emphasis on preparation before you get there so that you know how to navigate marriage. That leads to another question. I'll make this statement and then we'll go into the question. And oftentimes, when men are hurt, when we felt like we have done everything and we have given all to our family, to our spouse, it is very hard to rebound from that. Now, that was marriage one. You said that you are married. After that, how did you get back to the point of remarrying or ready or being open to remarrying?
Oh, wow. Um, After I got divorced, I needed time by myself. But what was most important was I didn't stay by myself and just have a bunch of friends that would console me and say, "Oh man, it was all her," and it would no. What I did was I had men of God around me that asked me what happened. And they did give their advice. But the greatest thing that I did was I entered into a relationship with God. I
Yeah.
cannot begin to tell you that my relationship deepened with God because God told me how wrong I was
Mhm.
in what I did. It was God who told me while I was praying, coming in my room because I had to move out. I went and got myself a room in the next town over. I had my job. I'm going back and forth to work. I wasn't thinking about anybody. I started hitting my Bible studies more. Sunday, I was doing everything in church. I was serving because I wanted to keep my mind focused. And so during that time, I began serving, realizing that serving was the key aspect within the realm of a relationship, any relationship. It's a service. You are serving God while you're serving and loving your wife. I wasn't looking for another wife. God sent her to me. This is what's crazy because she was doing what she was supposed to, and I found her. That's so biblical.
Mhm.
So I was being prepared by being in the church, serving, building my relationship. My mind was on God. And then as I was walking with God, I happened upon my, my Naomi. I happened upon, you know, that woman. And what's crazy about it, and I gotta say that what's crazy about it is we had already interacted. We had already been in a relationship. And so when I came across her again, I was like, nope, God, this is not the one, not the one. And God was like, yeah, her. And so I told her, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. But the fact of the matter is that in serving, I began to learn that serving someone is a great joy, whether it's your fellow man or it's your wife. It's making them pleased at the outcome of how you're making them feel. And that's what was literally absent in my prior relationship. And so, just in that time period, because I was divorced and separated, I was separated, divorced for about a little more than a year. And that
Mhm.
whole time, it was a work in progress. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget it because I grew so much in God at that time.
Mm.
that um, I, I can't say anything else but God. Otherwise, I would have been by myself. I was not feeling. I thought I was going to be single for the rest of my life.
So I'm gonna let you stay in that vein. You kind of perfectly transitioned. So how did you started to get into it, but how did you and your wife come to be?
Okay, so this is a testimony within itself. What happened? What had happened was, no, she was doing her thing. She was with her church, and I was with my church. I knew her. Now, there's not a complete backstory here, so I'm going to skip to the middle. But we had interacted before, and we had a son. I had not been seeing my son. Okay, we had a tumultuous relationship because I was not a good father. I was one of those dudes who was okay. Here, I'm going to pay you some child support, and that's it. And that's what I needed to be. I needed to man up, and I was not manning up. The man was not manning. Period.
Yeah.
And while serving, God began to deal with me, and He told me, He said, "I have your wife." I was
Mm,
like, "Well, I don't know who she is, so I'm not really too much interested, Lord. I'm doing my thing. I just want to serve you." And I remember my pastor, my spiritual father, said to me, he said, where is your wife one day? He was like, where is your wife? She's supposed to be here. I was like, you know the situation. He said, no, no, not her. He was like, the one that God's sending you. And I was like, well, I don't know where she is. So, I'm good. The way I am now, I'm good. He was like, no, she's somewhere. He said, God's going to speak to you about her. And so one day, it was a Saturday. I was off from work, and here's the kick. I was off from work. I'm laying in the bed. I said, I got my whole Saturday. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to rest. And the voice of God said, get up and go to the library. Now, as crazy as people say, they say, well, God doesn't speak to you. Yes, God will speak to you and He'll speak to you the way you understand.
right.
And He said, get up and go to the library. And I'm laying in bed. I said, I'm just want to lay here and just. He said, get up and go to the library. I'm like, of all specificity, the library? Who wants to go to the library? I'm like, it's a Saturday. So so he said it a third time. I got up and I did go to the library. I didn't want to go to the library. So when I got to the library, I found out that there was a program that was in progress. I said, well, what's this program that's going on? They said, oh, well, the name of the church. And I said, that's the church where my son's mother is. I said, well, what are they doing here? And I ran into one of the congregants, and his, he was like, hey, how you doing, Derrick? Come on in. He said, you know, such and such is here. And I was like, so I'm looking around. I'm looking for my son. I'm looking for my son. I'm like, now that's amazing. I had no idea they were there. God knew. Got there, and she was there. I'm looking around for my son. So I watch her in this production where she was dancing. Because she's a praise dancer, and I'm wondering, my God, where is my son? So I asked somebody, and they said, oh no, he's with his grandmother. I said, okay. So I said, let me just stay because I need to talk to her.
Mm.
But my attitude was much different than the last time we spoke. See, because there was never any shouting or yelling between my now current wife. It was kind of abrasive because of my mismanagement of my time, my funds, and my taking care of my son. And that's what her thing was about me. And so afterwards, I met her backstage. And her first response to me, she was like, "You haven't come to see." And she kind of came at me, and I was like, "How are you? God bless you." My whole attitude had changed because I'm trying to be a man of God. I'm hearing God so clearly and understanding not exactly what was going on, but that I had a complete change of attitude. And she immediately saw that. And I said, I really want to come see him. Um, when can we set up the time? And we started to talk. And that right there was the initial re-spark because she saw a difference in me and my attitude. Now, of course, she was like, well, he could just be trying to be nice so that I don't get at him.
Mhm.
But as time went along, she saw that the change was real and that it was permanent. So we met back at the library in New Rochelle, New York, and our relationship developed from that point, redeveloped because we were young, but we were growing in the Lord. We were growing
Wow.
in the Lord.
Wow. You literally did what people talk about not doing, which is you spun the block, as they say. Or God
Yeah,
spun the block on you.
yeah.
So so I want to change gears just a little bit, and I want to ask you this question here. I've got two more that we've got to cover, and I want to ask you
Mm.
this: Do you think culture impacts marriage?
I do. I do. Well, there's several ways that you can look at it. It depends, and the only reason I say this is because you see a lot of interracial marriages that are taking place today. Okay, you see a lot of them taking place today, and there are some people that are proponents on one side that would say that because I am a black man or a black woman, that white person, a Chinese person, whatever type of individual, they cannot completely understand who you are in a cultural context. But and to somewhat, I agree. But here's the crazy thing about it: love itself, the love of God, the love of the person, will supersede all of the culture aspects that we have of ourselves because we have to stop looking at ourselves as I'm a black man when you're with a white woman or a white woman when you're with a black man. Because if that's the person that God wanted you to fall in love with, there is purpose in that relationship. Do some of us like it? We may not. Those of us on the outside, it's not happening to us.
Right.
We see it, we hear it in the magazines, we see it on TikTok and on YouTube, black, a black queen should stay with a black king and all the other stuff. And that's and
Uma.
I'll sit there and I'll laugh at all of those things. But the fact of the matter is, and you can help who you fall in love with. I don't think you just fall in love with people. That's a whole different story. Okay. I believe that there is a controlled aspect there. But
Yeah.
you meet somebody and they fit lock and key style with you. They walk in step with you, have things in common with you,
Yep.
and they want to build with you. What good is it to build as a black man with a black woman who don't want to build? She just wants to take. What good is a black building with a black man if all he wants to do, okay, is be selfish to himself and don't want to build anything, a family, or make any money to help build a family? That's I don't care what color you are. If you're lazy, you're lazy. You'll just be lazy black. You'll just be lazy white. You'll just be lazy Chinese. It is what it is. So the context that we have to put that is in culture. Hey, listen, I fell in love with the black woman. I'm marrying a black woman and that's it. Fine, that's you. But if that person is Spanish or if they're black, if they're Chinese, if they're Ethiopian, if they're whatever race or creed or culture they are, if you've fallen in love with them and you love them, you treat them with kindness and respect, and you want to build with them, then go for it. Go for it. Don't let culture hold you back. I'm not going to date you because you're a white dude. Listen, there's issues there. There's issues there. We have to get over some of this stuff, really.
Yeah. Listen, so you know, for those who don't know, you are this is very special to me because not only have I known you for a while, um, then we go back. but you're my first interview. And as my first interview, you know, and if you look at the channel, everything has been shorts, YouTube shorts, right? And
Yeah.
I plan like, what I'm gonna, and that was one of the things that I was gonna, a short I was gonna do, and a conversation that I will end up having. One of my guys in the prayer group, he, uh, he's married to a white woman. Actually, him and my cousin, who's a part of the prayer group, they're both married to white women as black men. So, I can't wait to have the conversation about that and what their experience has been in culture regarding that. Um, okay, another culture question. I sent you an article that I'm not sure if you had a chance to read. I'm going to ask this question and then give the context as to why I asked the question later. Does the church properly prepare men for marriage?
Now, I've been in ministry for 30 years, and I gotta honestly tell you, I absolutely do not think so. I think more can be done. I think more can be done, and it's sad because um, we teach and we preach from the word, and we'll give the words and we'll give the expectations thereof, but we will not go into the depth or the complexities of the preparation. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we have a high ratio of divorce. Now, the statistics, I have to honestly tell you, the statistics are wrong. They say, well, that's why is the church got a higher divorce rate than the people in the world? Because when you do a statistical scale, they're only doing that particular level and not the same way they do it on a world scale. So it's going to look like we have 100%. Okay, when you have they're only testing 1%. So if you got 100, you have 100 out of the 1%, then wow, it's amazing. But as ministers, we should hold classes for those people. Okay, it's great. We have Sunday school, kids Bible study. We need to have, like your book, Preparing Men for Marriage. Those individuals who show up, who've been in your church, and they come to the pastor and go, "Hey, pastor, this is my fiance." And pastor go, "Well, congratulations. That's good when you get the date." And now everybody's thinking, when are you gonna get married? And then,
Right.
I gotta counsel you before you get married. And then we have 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions, and then
You're ready for marriage.
do you take you understand? It but you don't understand the emotional, what's going on emotionally, what's happened in their background, because all of those things carry into the marriage. If you were jacked up before you got engaged, guess what? If you ain't worked on it, you bring in all your jacked upness into the marriage, and it will rear its head while you're married. And then somebody's going to get mad. Somebody's going to say something to trigger something. And then next thing you know, you're going to be sitting back in the pastor's office going, "I want a divorce. She don't treat me right. And he don't treat me." When if you prepare correctly and you deal with the issues, if these issues are dealt with. I don't know if you were going to deal with this, but we have some seriously anemically, unemotionally intelligent men running around out here.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional intelligence is incredibly specific, and it must be acquired before you interact into a marriage. Get with somebody who you are going to be with forever. Because if you don't, you're going to walk over their feelings. You're going to tread all over them. And they're going to walk away hurt. And you're going to be sitting there going, "Well, I did everything right. It was
Right.
them."
Same
So
as you. Same
I
as
don't
you
want to go
said.
off. You know, it's right. It's these things. These things, Jaquan, happen to. I mean, because I've been in ministry so long, and I've seen couples, and I've married couples.
Mhm.
Okay, and out of the ones that I've married, none of them are together.
Wow.
I've married seven. None of
Wow.
them are together now.
Wow.
You understand? And that worries me. It's like, what could I have done as a
Mm.
minister of the gospel to have prepared them better, besides telling them, "Hey, listen, you should do this. You should do this," or taking the man to the side and saying, saying that.
Yeah, man. I think you you really made a good point. So in this article, I'll give 30 seconds of it. It basically, I'll call it secular. It's the Guardian. And they talked about how evangelical men, these men follow purity culture. And in the end, they were not prepared for marriage. So that's where the question came, because I think when you read some of the guys' comments, the tone overall was anti-church, anti-Jesus,
Mm.
right? Anti-purity. And it more suggested, hey, we should be talking about sex. We should be engaging in whatever, because if you engage in it, AKA that means you won't struggle within the marriage sexually. Okay. But given that it's a secular perspective, what that suggests is that you can, watch this, bring unholy behavior to a holy institution. And so when you do
Yes.
that, when you do that, now you have more problems. Now I'm going to say this. The question is, are you prepared for marriage, right? And the answer technically is not 100%. You will never be 100% prepared for anything until you're walking in it, right?
Come
And
on.
then and
Come on.
then in that you will still struggle, quote unquote, right? But I think I know the secular mindset doesn't understand this, which leads to further issues. But I don't think this is where I say I don't think in the church we prepare. I agree with you. We don't prepare men or women for marriage because we, number one, we're not having the conversations. I think there was a 40-year-old man who had not had sex. His first experience was with his wife. There was another man who had kind of come into porn and some different things, and he was ridiculed when his father found out about it. So I think there's ways we definitely can be better. We can have the conversations. We can take people, again, navigate with me. So you mentioned it earlier that you had people that came to you. I talk about that in the book as a marriage mentor. We need marriage mentors, someone that can walk us through when it gets tough and I want to walk away. You encourage me to not walk away. I don't want to say her name, but there's a favorite R&B artist who uh, went through a divorce maybe 2 to 3 years ago. And his wife, after divorce, she's kind of blown up. And she was on the Hardly Initiated podcast. And in that, this is what she said. She said, had I had the right people around me, I would not have made a decision to get a divorce. Okay.
Mm.
So again, not only I think, and this is I talk about this in the book as well. We make marriage to be an idol. Okay. And so when the finish line you think is the altar, that's wrong because that's when the marathon just begins.
My
Okay.
God. Come on now.
So when we talk about preparing men for marriage, we have to prepare you prior, and then we have to let you know it's not sweet once you get in it because this is the number one relationship that is the most important. That's why it only took you 2 chapters before God in the Bible, before he begins to tell you, hey, starts talking about marriage for this reason. Because of this
Mm.
covenant, because of this institution, you shall leave your mother and your father and cleave. And so again,
Yeah.
we do well at cleaving, but we don't do well at maintaining. We don't do well at
Woo.
we don't do well at navigating. And so what we do is that's why divorce is the option because we're not built, again, you talked about building. We're not built to withstand anything. It's like saying your house is built on sand. That's why I guess a question that we can ask for those, because this is not just meant for church folk. This is not a church folk podcast. Okay, this is meant for anybody
Mhm.
who hears it. So this is why we say, and I'm going to kind of put words in your mouth unintentionally. This is why we believe that religion has an impact on marriage. okay, as it should, because this is my thing. I believe this. We are headed for divorce as often as we are because we don't do marriage God's way. How, listen,
Mhm.
if I buy electronics, okay, and I read the manual and the manual tells me how to operate this electronic, when I don't do it, I cannot be upset and go back to the store and say, I want my money back because you did not follow the manual in the way in which it told you to take care of the electronic, to operate the electronic, to charge the electronic. So now it's the manufacturer's issue because you didn't follow the instructions. So we're doing marriage without the person who created marriage the way he created it.
Mm,
So
yeah.
so I got two shotgun questions for you. And you got to answer them in 2 minutes or less. Okay. This is where it gets a little fun. All right. Your greatest fear surrounding marriage.
Not being surrounding marriage is not being understood. And another one would be just the overall the length. My fear is how short of a time it is that you get to know an individual. The
Mm,
fear is that there needs to be more time. We need more time before we jump into that jumping over the broom and everything. So my fear surrounding it is you need that engagement period biblically. You know, the man, he go away, he build a house. You know how long it take to build a house? If brothers were to do that and go away, but by the time they finish the house, they come back and go, you know what? I think I want the house for myself. I don't know if I want to be married right now because I've been away from her because I don't know. I've seen this, I've done that. So yes, but that's those are my two.
I like that. Okay. And I don't think this is the same, but you can answer this personally and then you can answer this in general. And I think we have the capability to answer both. The biggest challenge in marriage.
Ooh, uh, biggest challenge: continually growing together. The
Mm,
one thing that I hear a lot of individuals say is, "We grew apart."
right.
I think that answer is a cop out.
Yes.
Um, because you can always find things to do that the two of you are extremely resolute in doing together. The fun aspects, we lose the fun aspects when we don't add our partners in to those things. We go off by ourselves and we do our own thing, and we don't ask their opinion about things, and so you're excluding instead of including, and you end up this ends up growing faster over here. Next thing you know this, and they feel some kind of a way that they were not included. I'm supposed to be connected to you. We're supposed to do this together. Listen, and these are the things that I'm learning from my wife. We've been married for 24 years. And these conversations are continuous, man. They're continuous. You didn't tell me about that. Well, I was going to, well, I'd like to know. These are,
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because as men, a lot of times we don't think like that. We're not very detailed, not all of us, but I know I'm not a detailed person. I'm more of a big picture person. I see it, I'll get it, I want it. It's like when we go in the store. Listen, I'm going in the store, I'll be in the store for 2 minutes. Go in there, pick it up, buy it, and walk out. Well, women go in and they look and find this, that, and the other. Yeah, I equate that to how we are in marriage. We men, it's like, okay, well, I did this for you, I did that for you, and I did that for you. You should be fine. Women are like, yeah, but you didn't do this and that with
Yeah.
it to
Yeah.
help support it. And we're going, duh, and we don't
Yeah.
know what's going on. So, it's those sort of things that trip us up, you know?
So you said something that I have to tap into, and then we're gonna let you talk about your platform and your book. So um this morning, I've been up since like 3 and trying to prepare for this and different things. And so I don't know how, but it came up where I said, you know what, let me look at my high yield savings account. And
Uh, it's not depleted, but I said, you know what? And I saw something where there's like, some advertisement for opening up a new account. And I got real excited because I'm like, ooh, if I do this, if I do that, and I was thinking, let me just go ahead and do this. And then I said, you know what? Let me not, because I already know what my wife is going to say. And I agree with her. If I do it, it's going to be, well, you didn't think it would have been a good idea to talk to me about it first? You see what I mean? And therefore, I did
Yeah,
not do it. And when I get off this podcast, I'm going to talk to her about it, give her the reasons why I think, let her know the difference between what we have versus what I'm looking at. And so now she feels involved. Again, in the book, I talk about communication because the communication styles are different, and we will suffer, and we will feel like we're being nagged when we don't understand that the communication styles are different, and there are certain things that are required that women need. Okay, can't
absolutely.
just focus. And I think just to go back and I'm give you your time. I think a lot of times we are selfish, right? And we justify ambition, right? I don't have to explain this to you because when I do this, it's going to be better for both of us. How did you determine what was going to be better for her without talking to her
Come
first?
on, come on.
And so again, I think I agree. I'm gonna say this last part. I agree that I understand why there is a lot of fear surrounding marriage. I do understand. As someone who I have a lot of the same stories as you. Divorced, knew my wife before some time before we ended up getting together, my current wife. And again, you realize and you learn, okay, yeah, you know what? I didn't do that right, or I could have done that better in my last situation. And so again, looking at it and saying, well, I did this and I did that. That's very haughty. And when you have that mindset, you won't be able to grow because you won't be able to see you. And I noticed you said that God showed you you. When God shows you you, you have no other choice but to see it in the mirror because it glares, and you have a decision. You have a decision to address it or to push it to the side. And that is where
Mhm.
future demise comes in. Okay. Now, I'm going to be quiet, and I would love for you to tell us about your book and your platform.
Okay, amen. Um, all right. Well, the book is, once again, it's prophetic psychology. It's understanding the mind of the prophet. Uh, One of the aspects of ministry that I have been totally engrossed with is of the prophetic. Now, we have a lot of individuals that are out there. As a matter of fact, every time you turn on a channel on TikTok or whatever, people are prophesying and everything. I'm going beyond prophesying. I'm going to the aspect of this guy is prophesying to me, but is he right? I'm not talking about his words. I'm talking about is his mind right? Because those who are true, authentic prophets, they go through things. I've gone through things that other people, if I explain them to people who are not in the church, they would be like, "You're crazy. I think you need some lithium or something. I don't know what drugs you need to be on, but you need to be on something." And it's crazy because without us understand, without the saints understanding why people seem like prophets, why they seem strange. Some prophets seem airy,
Yeah.
floating on clouds, like they're, you know, and they're running around looking at the sky. Oh, God the Father said, listen, all of that, if that's how you believe that God is dealing with you, then that's fine.
Yeah.
My understanding, I was born with my gift, and I just have to tell you, each of the fivefold ministry gifts are born gifts. I've gotten flack about that for many, many years, but it's a
Hmm.
born gift. And my gift began manifesting itself when I was 6 years old.
Mm.
So I understand the spirit realm and certain entities, demonic presences, angelic beings, and things of that nature. I, I understand them very much deeply. I can identify with what's going on. I don't walk around with a white sheet on my head, okay, and smoke and like I'm someone special. These are because we have to live in the world, okay, in order to be a witness. Okay, let me just throw this in as a caveat. God never told us to go witness. He told us to
Yeah.
be a witness.
Mm,
Be a witness. That means live this thing so people can see you. Talking it
mm,
don't mean anything.
uh-huh.
And so um, the book explores the mindset. And what I did was I combined the scientific or the psychological with the spiritual aspect, which
Mm,
brings it to another level so that people can get a full understanding of the psychology behind why we do what we do. Okay. The platform that I have is called the Spiritual Clinic. I speak about things that are spiritual, and I have a theological edge to it because a lot of people that I've noticed in churches today, they
mhm,
will quote scripture, but they cannot correctly exegete, but they're mostly eisegete. They do not understand the historicity of the Bible, why it was written, why things were done in this particular aspect. And so they're running around with a completely biblicist point of view without understanding the nature of why the Bible was written the way it was. And I could
mm,
say some things that would blow your mind in reference to the Bible, but it would also bring up a lot of questions as to why do you believe it the way you believe it.
right.
So this is a total. When I say faith walk, it needs to be a faith walk. And then I
Gotcha.
also have my school. My school is called the Academy of Prophetic Arts. I teach my book. Okay, my I have another class coming up in um late July, early August.
Okay.
I'm going to teach prophetic psychology, and I teach protocol in the church, because what I'm seeing in the church today is I'm seeing too much tightness in the clothing. I'm seeing too many people in the pulpit letting their stuff hang out. Nothing should be hanging nowhere.
Yeah.
It's a serious thing. Okay, because I come from a holiness background. Some of this stuff I see, the old church mothers, you'd be downstairs in the pastor's office, they'd make you change your clothes.
Come here, baby.
But these platforms, they're all meant to inform, Jaquan. They're all meant to teach the things that I've learned over the 30 plus years that I've been in ministry, so that we can make the church stronger.
Yes.
Like your book, Making Marriage Stronger, preparing them, because the next generation, which is basically grown now, but their generation, we need a constant stream of revelation that will keep them grounded
Mm.
so that the legacy does not die, because it seems that people are pushing the church to another level, and it seems very demonic. I don't want to get super spiritual, but that's the way it's.
All right. So tell us how we can find your book.
It's on Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes and Nobles. So you'll find it at those. Amazon, you'll find it anywhere, and it's going to be out on both Lulu and the other one, Ingram Sparks, in another week or so. So that you'll be able to find it in many retailers. You just type it in, and it should pop up. Also, my page. If you type in DerrickHenderson.com, you will see where you can find the book. That is my landing page. And listen, when you read it, be prepared to understand. If you're a prophet, be prepared to understand what it is what God has gotten you into, because you didn't do it yourself. What God has gotten you into, and be prepared.
That's true. So listen, this episode is sponsored by the Prophetic Psychology book, which is written by Dr. Derrick Henderson. Man, it's been a great time here with you. We got to have you come back. That being said, we're going to see you on the next episode. We're out.